So the kids have gone to sleep, and we're talking about the nature of the life cycle, and how it relates to, from my perspective, as a man who is committed to his own evolution. This is something that's really important that needs to be gotten in touch with. And the two most potent examples that I hold at this moment is one committing to a an engaged fatherhood role where you're willing to enter into that role without the opportunity or the option of pulling out of the role because you don't like how it's going, and you have to stay committed through being processed through the death and then out through the rebirth. And the same goes for a committed relationship. If you want connection to your woman, and I feel most men do, but they don't realize that they want it because they're so conditioned to believe that there should be separation, a certain degree of separation and closeness and separation between the woman. And I think a lot of men experience a certain amount of coldness and firmness and just separation from the woman, who, because she's waiting with her arms crossed for the man to step up in his maturity. I think that these are signs that the man isn't committed to dying the death of losing the old identity in the ways that he knows himself and moves through into the unknown and learning to recondition the mind to be able to accept the unknown without covering it, changing it, or judging it. And I think this is a really potent topic.
Yeah, and I was speaking about, before we turned the camera on, we began this conversation, I was speaking about that I feel like for the last 5 years that I was, before having the language and the wisdom to understand the concepts and how they all weave together, that what I've been trying to convey to Trevor with my actions and with various ways of expressing was that I wanted him to come along with me and understand the life cycle. I was wanting him to tap into that very feminine essence, which is our true existence as a woman. As we, from the time we have our first rite of passage, we have our moon cycle. We cycle with the moon, and every month we have a death. We have that knowingness, even if it's not cognitive, that we're connecting consciously with the power of our own cycles. We do have a death and we have rebirth each month. And so we are so close in relationship to the life cycle and the rebirth. And so death being a part of what we experience on a regular basis. And the more I believe that we awaken, like in my experience, as I really was awakening to my own power and my own nature as Mama Nature, as the cycles of the earth that were within me, I really was wanting him to also understand that and embrace that within himself, and to bring that into our relating, and to really let go and release and burn through the fear of the dying process of whatever it was.
And the resistance to the dying process.
The resistance that I could feel, and perhaps within myself as well, of course, just reflecting with him. But it again felt easier for me to tap into those parts of myself that were dying, and the beliefs and the conditionings and the ways of seeing myself. And I was able to let go. Not always easier. It's not a comparison necessarily. It's just that I feel like
You can say easier.
I was more intuitively guided within myself because of being in touch with that. And now we're at an understanding to say, wow, looking back on all these years we've been working on our relationship, this is one of the main themes to come into cognitive wisdom now, that we see a really big piece of what can probably help assist on a relationship journey of two conscious people, men and women.
And it can ease so much suffering in men and in women.
Yeah, for both. A lot of, I feel like this is like a key that can unlock quite a bit if we're working with the energies of this consciously as a couple and saying, hey, we're in a death cycle here, or we're entering into sort of a rebirth of how we see each other, and really really working at the level of recognizing one another's initiations in life. Something that's missing from our culture, obviously, is initiations that where we're being witnessed by others. So being able to be that for one another has been a big part of our path, to be able to witness each other's initiations. Obviously, through having children together, him watching me birth our babies at home, and me watching him go through letting go of a career, and really shedding layers together in front of one another, and being conscious and acknowledging the weight of it,
and helping one another. Because when my experience is that when I've been in those moments of the death cycle, it helps to be reminded and nurtured, or at least like shown from the outside a bit of perspective. Because when you're in the death cycle, it just seems like
you're being slower.
I mean, you can go, yeah, and chewed up, and like it, and it could be like it's everyone else's fault, and there can be all this blame and all this like redirecting of all the energies and not taking responsibility for things, and that sabotages the process. And I feel like for this reason, men are, because we don't have the monthly and the innate connection to the death and renewal cycle, except through the Earth Mother and through the feminine and our feminine aspects, of course. But I feel like we're always going to be humble witnesses to that process. And so there's like a certain amount of reverence and admiration and respect for that, and humility, because of being able to be part of that whole cycle as a human, and toward the feminine and toward nature.
And this is where the intimacy has come for us, to have this understanding together, and we laugh because he looks me in the eye and I know that he knows what I know, and we have this shared wisdom now that we speak the same language finally, and we couldn't speak the same language for the majority of our relationship, because there was not this understanding, and there was not this recognition, and this level of clarity, really, that we've come to now, and an understanding, and to also know, to share in vulnerability as well, that doesn't mean that we live in this perfect scenario of always feeling clarity in all things. Of course, we have confusion, and we get bogged down with our own insecurities and fears. But because we do have fears and insecurities as humans, and we assist each other when we're in that place to be able to reflect, this is where you're at, this is what I see, I can see that this is what's going on, and really gives a lot of comfort while being in those states. So providing that for one another has been a really big part of what we've developed and are constantly fine-tuning. So is there anything else you want to share about that?
Yeah, I think for the male, that willingly participating in that exchange is challenging because of how many of us are conditioned from society, and however we're conditioned as men on how to relate to a woman, and we don't often have the role models that handle it this way. But um, I perceive the way that I used to relate to her um, as boyish now, and that's the time when she earned the nickname from me, the Truth Crusader, because my sentiments at that time was that she was always carrying the flag like this and just charging forward, and constantly after the truth in every minute way. And the reason that I perceived that was because I was still acting out boyish ways of um, escaping responsibility, escaping taking responsibility. And I think that's a big thing that men, we often don't have modeled uh, right now around us. And I think it's really important to talk about that. I think that's a big piece that if men can shed that and really just know that there is a more mature way to handle when there's discrepancies in how things are seen or experienced, and when there's they're being asked to take responsibility. That I feel like we're doing the same thing that of the way we used to get out of doing chores and get out of escaping our mother's wrath when we were little boys, and it's the same energy as how we engage our beloved partner who we want to really be open to and not defensive to. I went through years of wanting to not be defensive towards her, and I would just rack my brain like, how do I need to see this differently? I can't even, I don't know what, it's just so frustrating just bashing my head against my reality. And now I'm on some part of the other side of it, and I can see that I was handling my part in the relationship of taking responsibility and allowing those parts of myself to be recognized, less mature parts of myself to be recognized, taken responsibility for, and then allowing them to die by being brought out into the light. And it was a really powerful cathartic process. And I had to let go of a lot of other things as a result to get me to where I was able to do that. But we're much, and we were happy then, but it's just a different level. It's just a different level that we couldn't have seen at another time, and that we're experiencing every day now, even when we're in disagreements. So, man, is it worth it to go through the fire?
So, yeah, feels like that's complete for the moment of just sharing a bit about our little chats that we have, and been feeling the need to share more about what it is that we're doing in relationship and what we've been going through for the duration of our own individual spiritual growth, as well as our collective growth with being a couple. And yeah, we're really blessed to have this relationship, and what has got us here has been a long journey to getting to where we are, and there's much more. But
I was going to say, there's so much more to be said about how we got here and all the foundational blocks to it. But
so this is our attempt to begin that journey to share more of the foundation. But we wanted to just share a bit about just this moment in time and how we sort of do things in our discussions, and the ways that we can begin opening up this box of treasures that we know we have to share, and that we really trust that will enter into the hearts of whomever is at the point that they want to digest. And
if this makes sense to you, then you're ready.
And if it
And
doesn't,
if it doesn't, that's okay too.
yeah, we trust that too, and we're really happy to just be received by those of you who support us, and we have so many people in our lives that really support our relationship and and give us the reflections of how important it is that we need to share, and we're ready to step that way. So thank you, and it's almost the dark moon, so it's definitely the time of release and the death cycle for us all.
Thanks for watching.